I'd asked a lot of people to send in questions, and I would love to address a few of them. The first one is from my husband, who's here. I would love to introduce both of you to him. This way. This is Nick. That's Dr. Tedros and Dr. Maria.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi, Nick.
Sorry
How are you?
Your live stream here.
Yes.
Doing well. We're staying inside. We've been kind of locked down for 2.5, 3 weeks almost now. But I'll make my question quick. I'm a type 1 diabetic. She's asthmatic, and for both of us, I think we were concerned and had some fears early on about just being exposed and what the effects would be for us. So if whether type 1 diabetics or diabetics type 2 as well, or people that have asthma or any other...
Or are immunocompromised.
What extra precautions should they take? And for me, what should I do to be just conscious of the effects that COVID-19 might have?
So what we know from cases that have been occurring across the globe is that there are certain people who are more at risk for developing severe disease. And those are individuals who have diabetes, they're individuals who have cardiovascular disease, have chronic respiratory disease, have cancer. And so these are people, and people of advanced age, so people who are over the age of 60. So we need to ensure that you could limit your exposure, your potential exposure to this virus as much as you can. So taking the measures that you just said of staying home for a couple of weeks is easily done. But we need other people who don't have those chronic conditions and who are younger to also help you. Because every single person who prevents themselves from getting infected prevents somebody else who could potentially be in a vulnerable category from getting infected. And I think if the one message we could get across to young people across the globe is that, as Dr. Tedros has said, you are not invincible. And we have seen that there are people with underlying conditions who are more at risk for severe disease and for dying, but we also see young people too admitted to ICU. So it isn't just for the old people. It isn't just a disease that will kill people who have underlying conditions. Everybody is at risk. It's a new disease. So you taking extra precautions to prevent yourself from being exposed is good. And if you are out, make sure you do the same. You do the five, which is this campaign that we just launched with FIFA. You wash your hands. Hands is the first one.
Okay. 20 seconds, wash your hands, take the time.
The elbow.
Sneeze or cough into the elbow.
Don't touch your face. Everyone touches their face.
And then the distance.
The distance.
And the feeling. Check how you're feeling.
That's right.
If you have problems, temperature, fever, and so on, then
stay home.
Stay home.
Stay home. And really,
5.
That's right. Those are the 5 things you need to do. If you have any trouble breathing, if you get sick very, very quickly, call your doctor immediately and go seek health care. But always make that phone call first so that they can expect you coming in.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank
for
you.
the question.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
babe.
you. Very nice to see you.
I have a few more. There's a question from Amelia Surtes. Can you catch the virus from the air? Is it airborne?
The virus is not airborne.
Okay.
So the virus is spread by what we call droplet, which is basically little particles of liquid that come out of your nose and your mouth when you talk or sneeze or cough, which is like this. And those particles need to reach somebody's eyes, nose, and mouth.
That's the only way you can contract it. So guys, that is something just that you guys need to know, that please don't be afraid. There's a very specific way in which this virus can be transmitted, and it's not through air, it's not through food, it's not through animals, right?
It's not through food, it's not through animals. But the other thing I want to mention is that it could be through contact, fomites we call, which is basically when those particles get on a surface, like a hard surface like this, if you touch it and the virus is there, and then you touch your eyes or your nose or your mouth, you can get infected that way.
So if someone coughs into their hand and touches the table, and you touch the table and touch your eye, you can get it.
But that's a barrier. It doesn't mean because you touch the table you're infected. You still have to touch your eyes. So if you wash your hands, use the alcohol rub, you kill the virus. The virus is gone.
That is a great question. Another question I have from @Divya_Jyoti. If you have recovered from corona, can I get it again?
We get this question a lot. So we don't have the full picture of this virus because we're still only 12
We're
weeks
all
in.
learning.
We're all learning. But if I can mention, we know that more than 100,000 people out of those 400,000 cases have recovered. And that's also important to be part of the message. It is still scary, but people are recovering from this. And what we are expecting is for people who do get infected, that they will develop some kind of an immune response. We don't know how strong that is yet. We don't know how long that will last. So we're working with a number of countries to try to collect that data more systematically so that we can give a proper answer to that question.
That's great. Another question, is COVID-19 vulnerable to heat? And if our house is warm, will the bacteria die? Mr. Nankis asks this question.
So first of all, thanks for that question because we do get lots of questions around temperature and what that actually means. This is a virus, so it's not a bacteria, so it's a different kind of pathogen. The virus can spread in different temperatures. We've seen it spread in cold temperatures in northern China. We've seen it spread in warmer temperature in Africa, in Singapore, and other places. There is some question about what may happen when the summertime comes in the northern hemisphere, and then the winter starts in the southern hemisphere. Excuse me. And it's not necessarily a change in how the virus behaves, but we behave differently in the warmer weather. You know, we spend a lot of time outdoors, indoors. So again, only 12 weeks in, so we're still trying to understand how this virus behaves. But there's, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of people that are looking at these types of questions, and we are working with as many of them across the globe as we possibly can to try to put that evidence together to help us better have an even stronger response.
Well, thank you so much for clarifying that. Another question which I have is there a vaccine? Finding a vaccine will be crucial to a long-term solution to corona, obviously. Are you guys working with Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance and others to produce a vaccine to ensure that everyone has access to it?
Yeah. Yes, we have started that some weeks ago, more than 8 weeks ago actually. We have convened a meeting of more than 400 scientists, and there are some vaccine candidates now, and we're working on those through those scientists throughout the world. But the thing here is vaccines may not be ready between 12 months from now.
Wow,
So
it'll take a year, you think?
Yes, a year to 18 months, a year and a half. That's very good. You're using your info. So a year from 12 months to 18 months it may take.
Oh, wow.
But it's a very important investment, and we're working with Gavi, we're working with CEPI, we're working with other institutions and convening that platform in order to speed up the discovery of vaccine, but it takes time. So the idea is to do everything we can now, public health measures to suppress and control the disease, but at the best in strategic issues like vaccines.
Got it. Wow, it'll take a year. Is it possible to have COVID-19 and not have a fever? This is asked by Jen Lilly.
It is. It would be rare though. So what we know from most people who have COVID-19 is that they have a fever, they have a dry cough, they have shortness of breath. It becomes difficult to breathe. And they may have some other symptoms like muscle pain. They may have a headache. Very few people will have a runny nose and sneeze and like you may see for the common cold or with the flu. But most people, about 90% of people in China, where we have huge case numbers, have reported fever.
Wow. So if someone has a cold, it could also be a common flu.
It can. This is the really difficult thing about.
Yeah, this is the gray area, isn't it?
Is that you don't know what you have, but there are some distinguishing features. This fever, dry cough, shortness of breath. That is COVID-19, and you need to get tested. And so the only way we can actually distinguish between each of these respiratory diseases is through testing. So it is important that does happen, and it's important that we increase capacity across the globe.
And we
Technology
provide tests and we find tests for people
That's
who can't get it. Another question for you, Dr. Maria. What is co-infection? Can you get two viruses together?
Yeah, co-infection means you're infected with multiple things at the same time. So some people can have influenza and COVID-19. Some people can have like a bacterial infection, like bacterial pneumonia and COVID-19. But yeah, that's what that means when you have the word co-infection.
Got it. I'm just going to take 5 more minutes of your time, just ask a few more questions because they're just interesting. What surface does the virus live on? This is asked by @MarySkelly.
So the virus itself doesn't live outside of the body unless you have a sick person that will cough or sneeze on.
How long will that last if someone sneezes or something?
So on hard surfaces, it depends on the type of surface. If it's like steel, so a lot of these studies are done in hospitals because they look at steel surfaces and plastics and things like that. There's some early studies on this virus, on the COVID-19 virus, that suggest that the virus can last for hours on hard surfaces.
Wow.
So that's why it's important that no matter what you touch, you wash your hands and then you clean surfaces. You know, that you're using your common disinfectants in your house, you clean doorknobs, you clean tables, and that will kill the virus.
And hand washing is more efficient than just sanitizing your hands.
So whatever you have access to. So some people have access to soap and water and some people don't. And so if you have access to an alcohol-based rub, make sure you do that. And there's a proper way to do this for 10 seconds or 40 seconds. I should know this. Or you wash your hands properly, sorry. But yes, you can kill, that's the point, is that there's a natural barrier that you have. And to wash your hands and to use that alcohol-based rub, even if you touch an infected surface, you can kill that virus.
And thank you for accepting the challenge, by the way.
I did. I have to do my 20-second. I have to find a song. I'm going to do it today. Just another question for low-income countries, because we're talking about water. Africa, India, places where people don't have access to water, soap, or even access to the education around coronavirus. What can governments or countries do so that we don't create a sort of pandemonium or a fear around, the fact that people don't have access and they don't know? What can we do to support people who don't have the access to water and soap?
This is a good question. I'll start. So we have seen really innovative ways in which people have been finding these access to hand washing stations. Where you've seen, I don't know if you've seen pictures of during Ebola outbreaks.
Yes.
You've seen jugs and you've seen chlorine with water and different things. And,
yes.
And the human spirit and human ingenuity is really creative. And we've seen through this pandemic, we've seen through other outbreaks before, that people find solutions. And we and you and others, everybody needs to do whatever they can to try to help make those solutions possible. There isn't a one size fits all. There's no one answer here. But we have to do every single thing that we can. And we're seeing some innovative ways where people are getting access to these kinds of jugs and water basins to be able to wash their hands.
That's great. One more question. How do we deal with...
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
I'm sorry if you don't mind. So my question is, I mean, we've never had this kind of interaction before, but my question is for you in terms of, you have a huge following. I don't know how many millions of people are watching you. You're a role model. And what do you think it is that you could do and your industry can do to help support this pandemic? Because we need everyone we can to help us with this, especially to reach young people.
I think one of the very important things, Dr. Maria, which is something that I'm trying to do, is make people understand that we're all in the same boat and actually reiterate the 5 things that you said, that this is some sort of weird leveler where it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, it's going to affect each one of us, and each one needs to be responsible and socially responsible for the other, as countries, as individuals, as people. And I think public people like me, I'm trying to do that by giving access to my fan base to you guys, and they would not have that access. So that's my way of contributing, and constantly talking about not to have a sense of panic, to be able to make sure that we think about others before we